For thousands of years, this land was crossed by caravans, not trains. Camels carried incense, pearls, dates, and faith across distances that swallowed men whole. Empires rose, oil flowed. Skyscrapers pierced the sky, and yet the desert between them remained empty, until a decision was made to draw a single line across 2,200 kilometers of sand, cut to blueprint lines appearing over desert terrain, steel tracks slicing through dunes, engines roaring. This is the story of the Gulf Railway, a $250 billion wager against geography itself, a railway not just of steel and ballast but of politics, ambition, survival, and time. Before oil, before borders thought there were routes carved by memory and stars, Bedouin men tightened rope harnesses on camels, a caravan leader checks the wind direction with sand. Water skins are counted again. Trade in the Gulf was always a matter of survival. Distance was not measured in kilometers, but in thirst. Wine erases footprints within minutes. Geography shaped civilization here. It also divided it. Fade into modern skyline. When oil erupted from the earth, the desert stopped being empty. Cut to pipelines stretching across sand, tankers leaving ports, highways being paved. Roads were built, ports expanded, airports multiplied, but something fundamental remained missing. The Gulf Cooperation Council, founded in 1981, sought unity in economy and security, but unity moved slowly, on rubber tires, stopped at every border. A truck driver wipes sweat, engines overheat. Time stretches, oil could cross oceans faster than goods could cross neighbors. In 2009, amid global financial uncertainty, the Gulf leaders proposed something radical. Not another skyscraper. Not another port. A railway. Documents stamped. GCC Railway network. Projected length: 2,200 kilometers. Estimated investment: $250 billion. It would connect Kuwait to Oman. Saudi Arabia to Bahrain. Qatar to the Emirates. Freight and passengers moving without the tyranny of desert highways. Silence in room. A minister circles a section across the empty quarter, but vision collides with terrain. Sand does not accept steel easily. Politics is a force more unpredictable than weather. When regional tensions escalated, steel did not move. Engineers sit in temporary offices, blueprints rolled back into tubes. A railway requires synchronization. One broken link breaks the chain. Before a single rail could be laid, the desert had to be studied layer by layer. Close-up of soil sample. Fine sand collapses between fingers. Sand moves. It flows. It migrates with the wind. Geotechnical specialist shakes head. Temperatures in the Gulf exceed 50 degrees Celsius. Steel expands. Tracks warp. Catastrophe follows. Engineers adjust rail alloy composition, specify continuous, welded rail with expansion buffers. Ballast depth increased to resist sand intrusion. The solution was not just to build tracks but to build tracks that survive fire from the sky. Wind is relentless. To defeat it, engineers studied it, mapping prevailing patterns, predicting drift accumulation. Time-lapse. Dune formation around test tracks. Track bury after storm. Crew digs it out. Silence. Then reinforced embankment constructed. Compacted crushed rock imported from quarries. Stone had to be brought from mountains hundreds of kilometers away. The desert provides sand. Railways require rock. Saudi Arabia had already begun modernizing its rail infrastructure. The GCC Railway would not start from zero but from fragments. Heavy haul trains prove viability in extreme heat. Data collected.
All right, bring it down steady.
In the Emirates, progress accelerated. Phase by phase, the network expanded. Ports linked to industrial zones. Bridge spanning Wadi under construction. Reinforced piers drilled deep into bedrock. Each kilometer demanded precision. Alignment tolerances measured in millimeters. In the desert, even one miscalculation magnifies.
इसीलिए आमतौर पे जिक्र करना है एंड पर दिसों के इसके से बात कुछ है दिल शितो एंड इसका के एलपीसी.
Water presented a different enemy. Salt corrodes, currents shift foundations, engineers debate corrosion-resistant alloys and cathodic protection systems. The railway was no longer a single project but a network of national ambitions forced into alignment. The first rails had touched the sand. But steel alone does not guarantee unity. The true test was still ahead, synchronizing 6 nations, 6 economies, 6 political wills, into one continuous line. A railway cannot function in fragments. It is continuity embodied in steel. The continuity depends on trust. Files marked cross-border standardization or closed. Joint engineering committees are postponed. At a desert staging yard near the Saudi-Emirati border. Stacks of unused rails sit under tarpaulins. A site manager watches a sandstorm roll in. Political fractures do not tear up tracks. They simply prevent them from meeting. The pressure is immense. Every month of delay costs millions. Machinery sits idle. Contracts are renegotiated. Yet somewhere beneath the tension lies a deeper realization. The railway is no longer symbolic. It has become strategic. Building inside one nation is engineering. Building across 6 is diplomacy expressed in millimeters. An engineer from Kuwait argues for heavier axle loads to maximize freight efficiency. An Omani planner raises concerns about mountainous gradients near Soha or in Emirati systems. Specialist insists on unified European train control system integration. Voices rise. Charts flash.
Shows a critical failure in freight efficiency. The terrain gradients near Sohar present a significant challenge we did not anticipate. As we integrate the European train control system, notice how the signaling architecture adapts to the terrain outlined here. The ETCS diagnostics are failing to synchronize.
We need to bypass the primary control loop immediately.
That violates the safety protocol.
A difference of 2 centimeters in track geometry can derail a train. A difference of policy can derail a region. Finally, agreement. Standard gauge, unified signaling architecture, common freight platform specifications. Steel requires alignment. So do nations. The desert is deceptive. What appears solid may conceal layers of instability beneath. Core samples reveal weak subsoil layers, ancient salt flats buried under dunes. Solution: excavation. Replacement with imported granular subbase. Geogrid reinforcement layers installed beneath. Ballast: compaction performed in sequential passes. They built not upon the desert but through it. Bulldozers work at dawn. Night shifts under floodlights. Temperatures exceed 45 C. Workers rotate every 30 minutes to prevent heat stroke. Hydration tents line the work zone. In extreme heat, even steel becomes vulnerable. So does the human body. The desert is deceptive. What appears solid may conceal layers of instability beneath. Core samples reveal weak subsoil layers, ancient salt flats buried under dunes. Solution: excavation. Replacement with imported granular subbase, geogrid reinforcement layers installed beneath. Ballast: compaction performed in sequential passes. They built not upon the desert but through it. Bulldozers work at dawn, night shifts under floodlights. Temperatures exceed 45 C. Workers rotate every 30 minutes to prevent heat stroke. Hydration tents line the work zone. In extreme heat, even steel becomes vulnerable. So does the human body. At 50 degrees Celsius, steel lengthens. If restrained improperly, it buckles, a silent wave of catastrophic distortion. Engineers adjust neutral temperature settings. Rails are tensioned and anchored at calculated thermal equilibrium points. Special fasteners are selected, elastic clips capable of absorbing expansion. Ballast shoulders widened. They did not eliminate heat, they negotiated with it. Where sand yields, water resists. Sonar scans reveal seabed composition, soft marine clay overlaying limestone. Engineers decide on deep-driven steel tubular piles. Coated with epoxy and protected with cathodic systems, hydraulic hammers pound rhythmically. The sound echoes across water. Salt corrodes silently. Protection systems outlive politics, outlast storms, endure decades. Concrete deck segments are prefabricated onshore, transported by barge, lifted into place with millimeter precision. A structural engineer watches alignment lasers. If misaligned now, corrections later would cost billions. He nods. Alignment holds.
Okay, lower slowly. 2 inches more. Hold it right there. Perfect. Set it down.
All right, hold the crane. Adjust to the left. Perfect. Set it down.
Where dunes shift, mountains resist. Drilling rigs puncture rock faces. Explosive charges placed with geometric precision. Countdown. Blast.
Here,
rock fractures outward. Dust fills the valley. Inside the partially bored tunnel, workers install rock bolts and sprayed concrete lining. Ventilation fans roar. Every meter gained is negotiated with geology. Safety briefings conducted before each shift. Heat trapped within rock amplifies exhaustion, but progress is visible. Light appears faintly at tunnels far end. Modern railways are not only steel, they are algorithms. European train control system X level to integration tested. Real-time data feeds from axle counters, track circuits, weather sensors. Send storm alerts, trigger automatic speed reduction protocols. The railway learns, it adapts. Cybersecurity teams monitor intrusion attempts, because infrastructure is no longer just physical, it is digital territory. For the first time in history, freight crossed the desert between nations without rubber touching asphalt. The locomotive disappears into heat shimmer. What began as an agreement on paper becoming a line visible from space, but completion is not an event. It is a convergence. The last connection in a railway is not symbolic. It is mathematical. The final rail segment is lifted by crane, placed gently onto prepared sleepers. Thermite molds are clamped around the joints. Molten metal ignites white fire pouring into the scene. Workers step back. The weld cools. Grinding machines smooth the joint until it is seamless. A straight edge glides across the surface. Perfect continuity. A Saudi engineer removes his hard hat briefly. He does not smile. He simply exhales. 6 nations, 2,200 kilometers, and now, one uninterrupted line. The desert wind moves across steel that no longer ends. Completion is not ceremony, it is verification. The locomotive accelerates to 120 kilometers per hour. Heat shimmers above the rails. Bridge segments vibrate within predicted tolerances. In Oman's mountain corridor, tunnel pressure differentials are measured as the train passes. Emergency brake simulations are triggered at designated intervals. The train stops within calculated distance. An Omani engineer nods, within limits. Freight proves strength. Passengers test trust. At the border crossing, no physical halt occurs. Digital customs pre-clearance systems communicate across national databases. Biometric scanners validate identity. Before boarding, no checkpoint interruption. Passengers barely notice the transition. Outside, a border marker flashes past in seconds. A Qatari observer watches quietly. This is what integration feels like. Railways are living systems. Steel must be watched. Gravel must be corrected. Data must be analyzed daily. In the empty corridor, sand fences are repositioned seasonally based on wind migration data. AI-based predictive maintenance software flags microfractures before human eyes can detect them. A young engineer studies the screen. This is not a monument, it is an organism. Where once thousands of trucks carried goods across highways, now one train replaces them. At Dammam, petrochemical products load directly onto rail. In Oman, minerals move inland without road transport. Logistics software optimizes cargo distribution. Across the network, transport time between Kuwait and UAE reduces dramatically. Fuel consumption per ton drops, highway congestion eases, accident rates decline. Integration becomes routine. The extraordinary dissolves into daily life. Stations become new civic spaces. Retail corridors grow around them. Urban planning adjusts to rail-centered development. The desert once separating cities now connects them.
That was not been sat empty.
Railways are among the most energy-efficient land transport systems ever created. In a region defined by fossil fuels, this line suggests transition. The railway does not erase oil dependency, but it diversifies movement. It lowers per ton carbon intensity. It aligns with broader economic transformation strategies.
By 20%.
Every major railway in history carried both commerce and strategy. The Gulf Railway is no exception, but this time, its greatest strength is interdependence. Disruption in one segment affects all. Cooperation becomes necessity.
For millennia, the desert separated. Now steel binds.
For millennia, the desert separated, now steel binds.